When the universe sends us a message, we should listen. And then we take a look at the story of a cursed film. We've long heard stories about movies that could drive you mad or contain authentic spells within them that can unleash dark forces into your life. But is it possible that one of these movies not only exists, but can also be viewed right now on YouTube? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing, and I hope you guys have some awesome plans for the weekend. I'll probably go see a movie or two like I normally do. Maybe that new Dracula movie, that looks kind of good. Maybe Iron Lung, the Markiplier movie. I haven't been able to watch that yet. To be fair, I still haven't gotten around to watching Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I watch pretty much every movie other than the ones I say I'm going to watch, but someone who does what they say and say what they does, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command right now. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Music for Airports. Woohoo, yeah, yeah, we're listening to some awesome music. Woohoo, yeah, that's in airports. I don't know if it's just me, but a lot of times I go to airports. Is this everywhere? I know it's in Portland and sometimes in Sacramento. There's a dude on a piano, not like a bum, not like a guy outside with a Casio, but like an actual piano, and he sits in the lobby and he plays piano music, right? Not like cool stuff, but ordinary old piano music. Might be this guy. He's been gang stalking me, airport to airport, playing the piano. Music for Airports shared their Spotify Wrapped, letting the world know how much they love Dead Rabbit Radio. That's getting the word out. That's what I always say. If you guys can't support the show financially through the Patreon or the merch store, just do what Music for Airports did. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow, and the show grows all the time. It's awesome. We're putting out less episodes a week, and we're still growing. We actually have more listeners now than we had in November when I made that decision. So I think people go, oh, I can keep up with 3 episodes a week, 5 episodes a week. Nah, I can't keep up with that. That's too much content. We have more listeners now than we had before I made that decision, so it's worked out well all around. Music for Airports. Let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the Jason Jumbo Jet. It has to be big. We have to fit a piano in this thing. Everyone climb on board as Music for Airports flies us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way out to a sleepy suburban neighborhood. Flying away in the Jason Jumbo Jet. It's basically the same sound effects of the Jason Jet, yet it sounds bigger. It's a bigger sound. Jason, actually, that's probably the quietest sound effect you've done in a while, yeah? You know, sometimes I have to regulate my sound effects depending on when I'm recording an episode, how many of my neighbors may be sleeping at that time. Music for Airports is flying us out to the suburban neighborhood. We don't have an exact location. We don't have the young woman's name who posted this. We're going to call her Gwen. Gwen, when she was in 8th grade, she's sitting there in class and all of a sudden she is overcome with emotion. She feels this wave just crash over her, like the last lonely rock on a seashore being eroded away one last time by a wave. You're like, what? Was it a tiny rock? I'm just trying to build an image, okay? It's probably not the best one. It's like a man standing on riverbanks, and then all of a sudden a giant wave washes him downriver. That's how she felt. That was the emotion that she felt. She's all dripping wet, sitting in class. She's like, ah! No, so what happened? Well, I know, I probably should tell the story normal because I love this story. She's sitting in class. She's overcome with a wave of emotion. She doesn't know what it is. It's not sorrow. It's not happiness. It's just raw, pure human feeling as she's sitting in class and she starts to sob uncontrollably. Now, this is something that is completely out of character for Gwen. I mean, not just the uncontrollable sobbing, that is too, but just kind of being disruptive in class or wanting to go home early or trying to fake something so she can get out of an assignment. Now, her life has not been easy for a while now. Her father has been very sick. Her father just is kind of bedridden at this point at home. And that's hard on her and her mother. You know, it's hard for their family, but Even with that, Gwen had been coming to school, having good attendance, being a good student, paying attention. So when all of a sudden she starts sobbing uncontrollably and she can barely get out the words, "Can I go to the office? Oh, go to the office." That's me sitting next to her making fun of her. Boo, you big old crybaby. The teacher goes, "Oh my God, like, yeah, Gwen, go to the office," because she's normally not an outburst kind of kid. And the same thing when she gets to the office, they call up her mom and said, "Hey, Gwen, she's having a really bad day. She's just like broke down sobbing in class. And would you mind picking her up?" The mom's like, "Yeah, sure, totally." She's concerned about it. The mom's concerned about it because her daughter's never done anything like this, but she doesn't question it. "Well, I'm at work. She can stay there for longer, da-da-da-da-da-da." So mom comes and picks Gwen up from school, takes Gwen home. Gwen walks in the front door, drops her book bag down, walks into her dad's bedroom, and he's laying there on the bed watching a World War II documentary. Gwen says he watched this documentary all the time. And I ended up watching it a lot with him as well because I would want to spend time with my dad. We would watch this World War II documentary. And she sees her dad laying there in bed. "Honey, what are you doing home early?" "I don't know. I just didn't feel good." "Okay, well, come on. We're gonna watch this documentary. We're going to watch this World War II documentary again. Who will win this time?" She's like, "Yeah, Dad, no, that's perfect." So she crawls into bed with her dad, and she reaches over and holds his hand as he holds hers. And they start watching this World War II documentary again. Eventually, they both fall asleep. A few hours later, Gwen wakes up. She's still holding her father's hand. But there's something different. There's something different about his touch. It feels wrong. It feels empty. She looks over and she sees her father laying next to her. He's dead. She said in this narrative, she wrote it, she posted it online underneath the name Gwenerfresh. She said, quote, "All these years later, I can't explain what came over me sitting in that class, but I knew I had to go home, and nothing was going to stop me from being next to my daddy that day." Unquote. We're not done, okay? Because here's the interesting thing. These type of stories, I have a ton of these stories either in my already typed up notes section or to be typed up as notes. I love these stories. I don't cover them all the time. I like to read them and analyze them. But I don't cover them all the time because they can be a little repetitive. They're kind of all with the same thing. I had a feeling something was going to happen, something monumental. And then I either acted on it or I didn't, and then X happened. Usually I had this feeling, it's like Gwen's story, I had this feeling, I noted it and reacted to it, and then later I found out that so-and-so had passed away, or so-and-so had had this accident, or so-and-so had. Sometimes it's a good thing. I can't think of any of those ones off the top of my head, but anyways, usually I read the bad ones. The reason why these stories really stick with me, and I revealed this in a recent episode, and I actually didn't know it was I don't know what the right word is. It's not a phobia or a psychosis, but I have this weird thing about, I feel like I don't know enough, and in the end, the information I don't know, that'll be what kills me. Or ends up getting someone else injured. Information I don't have. If I had known one additional fact, that could have stopped someone from eating the slug. And if that's a non sequitur for you, I'll put it in the show notes. I'll put that episode in the show notes. You're like, what? It's a big issue. But anyways, this is kind of the paranormal version of that. And here's the thing. I always have these feelings. Not the girl crying in the classroom. For one, I'm not a girl. But two, and I do cry a lot. But the idea that this happens to me all the time. All the time. I'd probably say once or twice a week. Maybe not that. Maybe 2 or 3 times a month, which would come out to around once a week. But anyways, my point is, I'll be hanging out with a friend of mine. I'll be talking with a relative on the phone, whatever it is. And while I'm having this conversation, I get this feeling going, well, this is the last time you're ever going to talk to this guy. So make it count. Maybe I'll throw in an extra I love you. Not to the guy, right? But you know what I mean? Like, hey, buddy, hey, just to let you know, if we never talk again, I've always enjoyed your friendship. I mean, obviously, I don't say that. They'd think I was going to kill myself. But I would think that. I would go, this is the last time you're going to ever talk to this guy. Or I'll be sitting at home talking to nobody, just be playing some Battlefield 6, and I'll get this feeling, hey, man, you better call your mom. You better call your mom because tomorrow you won't have a chance to. Now, the funny thing is I don't always call my mom, right? You're like, whoa, Jason, you have this feeling your mom might die, and you're like, oh, I gotta finish this round of Battlefield 6 and then play another one. No, I don't always act on it, but I get those feelings a lot for all sorts of people and all sorts of situations, and it never, ever matters. There's never once been a moment that has ever played out that way, and I have those feelings all the time. I mean, it sucks, right? Because it works me up each time. Now that I'm thinking about it, it doesn't happen 2 or 3 times a month. It probably happens once or twice a month. But it's been happening pretty much for 49 years. So I get these feelings a lot. Every time I get on a plane, I go, oh, the plane's going to crash. Every time I get ready to go on a long car drive, well, car's going to go off the bridge. Whenever anyone's driving across the bridge, I go, oh, the earthquake's going to strike. We're going to drown. This is the time I get these feelings. I think the traveling one's obviously anxious about traveling. But the times where I'm just sitting at home doing nothing and I get this feeling that someone close to me died or is dying right now and I need to call them. This guy might be ready to kill himself. I need to call this dude right now because I get this feeling, this really strong feeling he's about to blow his brains out. And it never happens. And I sometimes don't call. Sometimes I'll get a feeling that this dude's going to kill himself. And I was like, oh, I feel right now that my good friend is going to jump off a bridge. And I still don't call. I still don't, just make the phone call, Jason. I Facebook messaged a relative of mine around Christmas time. I've never messaged her before on Facebook. Obviously, I see her in real life every now and then. I saw her much more when I lived down in California, but I had a horrible dream that she had killed herself or was about to kill herself. And all morning long, I was like, I need to message her. I think she's going to kill herself. And I didn't. I didn't send a message. I waited until the next day because I never message her. And then the next day, I still had that feeling. And I go, Jason, you will feel so awful if you don't send her a Facebook message and she kills herself. You will feel so bad. So anyways, after about a day and a half, I messaged her on Facebook. I was like, hey, just checking in, making sure everything's okay. And she was like, oh my God, Jason, we haven't talked so long. You need to come out with Christmas and that. And I'm like, okay. She's obviously still alive. And I never responded to that, right? She goes, wow, Jason. She probably thought something was up with me. But I get these feelings and they can be overwhelming. What's interesting in these stories, because mine are obviously false. I think it's a lot of anxiety. And these stories are so interesting to me. One, because I have these instincts all along and they don't matter. And then this person has this one and it does matter. I find that very interesting. I go, the type of fear or overwhelming emotion that people are feeling when it's real is nothing compared to what I'm feeling. When I have bad heartburn, I might have an anxiety attack because I think I'm having a heart attack. Because I don't know what a heart attack feels like. Someone who's having an actual heart attack goes, Jason, it doesn't feel like you just ate a Chipotle burrito and then took a nap. It's like an elephant sitting on your chest. But I have no frame of reference to how painful it should be. So I love stories like this. I mean, in a way, they scare me, right? These type of stories make me think, what if I don't read the signs right? What if I sat there in class and just sucked it up? And go, it's nothing. I'll talk to she didn't even have it related to her dad. She was just overcome with emotion. It wasn't even related to her father. These type of stories always interest me because obviously it's something different. But this is what's really cool about Gwen. Is a lot of times we cover stories, and again, I don't know off the top of my head how often we've covered this phenomenon. I know I read about it a lot, and I kind of seek these stories out. And I don't know how often they make it to the final cut. But what's interesting about Gwen, we've covered stories where someone listens, and again, I don't know how much we've covered it, but there are a ton of stories about people who had this overwhelming instinct, feeling, whatever, and acted on it, and ended up being able to share one last beautiful moment with a loved one. Then we have stories about people who swallowed the emotion, ignored the instinct, and something negative resulted because of that. They didn't listen to the universe. I've read stories in both of those categories. What's really interesting about Gwen is she also posted this narrative. It's completely unrelated to this. Someone else was asking a question about paranormal stories, and she posted that one. Then a while later, a couple days, couple weeks, whatever it was. So yeah, a couple weeks later, she posted this one in response to a different question. Gwen said, I was 17 years old. I worked at Target on the weekends. And I woke up one day and I felt really sick. So I decided not to go into work. She's going to stay home from work that day. She doesn't feel good. When she's talking to her sister about her decision to stay home, her sister goes, don't be a lame-o. Almost said something else. Don't I imagine what sisters would call each other, because I know that's what brothers call each other. Don't be a lame-o. Get up. You're not that sick. I can look at you. You're not that sick. You made an obligation to work. Go to work. Because she was like offloading trucks. It wasn't just someone folding t-shirts or anything like that. You know, you really need that extra set of hands when you're unloading trucks. So fine. I will go to work. Even though I don't feel good, I will go to work. Gwen gets in her car, and as she's driving to work, she gets in a terrible car accident. She gets T-boned by a car, ends up breaking her knees, breaking her pelvis. Very violent car accident. She ended up not being able to go to work for quite a while after that. And it was one of those accidents that she goes, the doctors, the EMTs were surprised I was still alive. I mean, it basically collapsed her entire lower body. She's still has legs. She can still, she's healed by this point. But she goes, the way that the car hit me and the amount of damage it did, it is a shock that I'm still alive. If she had followed her gut, because see, looking back on it, she goes, I wasn't physically ill. I felt ill. I felt sick. Her body was sending her signals to say, stay home today. And her sister goes, nah, go to work. And she goes, if I had listened to that gut instinct that I listened to, and think about it, the first story, she was in 8th grade, so what would she be, like 12, 13? She's 17 in this story. They're pretty closely connected as far as years go. If she'd listened to her instinct, she would have never had the car accident, and although she's doing fine now, or at least better than she was after the accident, immediately afterwards, still, all of the trauma, all of the everything, right? The therapy, the medical bills probably was covered by the insurance, but then the same thing, finding a new car, getting a new job, all of this stuff, all of it could have been avoided if she had listened to the universe. And this is the first time I found one person have both types of encounters. I find people just having positive results because they listen to the universe, and sometimes the positive result is not getting in the car accident. Now, that one's harder to prove, right? You could be sitting there and go, I have a funny feeling that I shouldn't go to work today. So you don't go to work that day, and nothing happens, and then you go to work the next day, and everything's fine. But had you been driving down the road that day, someone could have crashed into you, your car could have went off a bridge, terrorists could have attacked just your car, whatever the case. But because you didn't do it, the event didn't happen, so you can't do a Seth MacFarlane and say, wow, I woke up, and because he was hungover and missed his flight, he survived 9/11. He was supposed to be on one of the planes that crashed into the Twin Towers. He can obviously go, whoa, I dodged death. A lot of times when you listen to these instincts, you're not able to say that because the event that would have killed you never happened in the first place. So I think this is really interesting, right? One time she listened to the universe, she had one last amazing memory with her father. And imagine that dad, I mean, it sucks to die, but imagine that dad dying next to his sleeping daughter while holding her hand. Like, I mean, what parent, if you gotta go, that's a great way to go, right? I mean, what a beautiful moment for her father. But then the other time she didn't listen to the universe, she gets horribly injured. So usually we only hear of one or the other. This girl experienced both. Going forward, I would just advise her to listen to her instincts. But again, my instincts are always wrong. So it's weird for me to say that. I'm constantly going, this is the last time I'm ever going to talk to this person, so you better make this conversation count. Sometimes it'll happen while I'm walking away, right? Hey, say one more goodbye to that guy, because he's going to die soon. I don't hear voices, but I'll get a feeling like that, and it's always wrong. So these stories always fascinate me, and hers in particular, because she had one where she listened to the universe, had a positive result, one where she didn't listen to the universe and had an extremely negative result. Fascinating part of the paranormal, and really it seems to be very common. I won't be surprised if I get several emails and comments from you guys where you may have experienced something like this. So fascinating stuff appears to be very common. At the end of the day, listen to the universe because it knows more than you do. Music for airports. I'm going to go ahead and touch the keys. The world famous Carpenter Copter. We're going to leave behind this sleepy suburban neighborhood with the lesson that we've all learned. Listen to your instincts. Why don't you fly us all the way out to Egypt? The year is 1988. We're in Egypt and we're walking around town and I'm like, yo guys, it's kind of boring here, right? We already saw the pyramids and we went and saw the Sphinx. What else is there to do in Egypt? And you're like, yeah, it is kind of boring here. It's really dirty. Not like cleanliness. You're like, wow, Jason, that's kind of mean. No. The streets are clean, but there's dirt everywhere. It's just like a sandy place. You're just kind of looking around. Here's a palm tree every couple blocks or something like that. Pyramids, we're like, you've seen one pyramid, you've seen them all. And actually, since they're all so close together, that actually is true. What else is there to do in Egypt? We could take a boat down the Nile. Hot air balloon. We did that episode. I probably shouldn't even joke about that. We covered the worst hot air balloon accident. One of the worst in the world happened in Egypt. I'll put that episode in the show notes. Probably shouldn't joke about it, but what else is there to do in Egypt after you've seen the Sphinx, after you've seen the pyramids? Let's go see a movie. Because it doesn't matter where you're at in the world. Movies are always awesome. So we find a local Egyptian movie theater, and I go, I'd like to buy some tickets, please. And I want to see something super spooky. Do you have any spooky movies here in Egypt? And they go, yes, we have a constant copy of The Mummy on repeat everywhere you go. Yeah, but The Mummy's not scary. He's just kind of like a slow guy. And that's when the ticket taker goes, ooh, you want something extra creepy, I see. And he hands us tickets for a movie. Ada Le Yantquem. Ada Le Yantaquem. I'm all trying to pronounce the movie. It's like, do you have this ticket in English? And he goes, yes. He gives us other tickets, and they say, he returned for revenge. It's like, dope, dude. This is probably going to be like Die Hard meets The Mummy. We go in, and we're watching this movie. And it's a pretty crowded theater, right? See a bunch of people sitting there eating popcorn, drinking soda. We're kicking back, we're watching this movie. Luckily, there's English subtitles, and this guy's driving down the road with his wife and his daughter, being like, isn't this great, family? Aren't we having so much fun? And the daughter's like, yay! And the mom's like, gives him a little thumbs up. But then there's a horrific car accident, which I'll be honest, I didn't watch the movie. I know basic plot details. I don't know if he's in the car during the car accident. Doesn't matter. Just roll with me on this. The movie is, this dude has a wife and a daughter he loves very much. They both die in a car accident. And this guy's like, no, oh man, no, my family's dead. I'm so sad. I'm going to move into this new house. So he does. He moves into this new house and he starts to get this feeling that the house is haunted. And he goes, oh my God, my little girl. My little girl ghost has come back to visit me. From beyond the grave, her soul yearns for a father's hug. Come here, little ghost girl. Let me hug you. Let me hug you back to life. He's obviously so depressed that he's going insane. But then he realizes that, yes, the house is haunted, but not by his daughter. In fact, it's a boy who has haunted the house for a long time. And through the course of the story, this grieving father finds out that this little ghost boy was murdered, and he is seeking revenge against those that killed him. If that plot sounds familiar, this is a remake of an American film called The Changeling, which I have not seen. What's interesting, though, is that, because I read a lot about this movie, and some about The Changeling, people who watch those movies, and it might be a product of their time, but people who watched those movies when they came out go, that's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. People say that about The Changeling, and people say that about He Returned for Revenge. They go, it's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. And that is the basic plot of both of them, but what's even more interesting is, and this starts off this whole idea of, is this a cursed story? Because The Changeling is based on real-life events. There was a playwright and composer named Russell Hunter who moved into a house in the Chessman Park neighborhood in Denver, Colorado. In the 1960s, he moved into this house called the Henry Treat Mansion. And he says that while he was there, he experienced these hauntings, and he uncovered this mystery about, like 100 years before he moved in the late 1800s, there was a little disabled boy who lived in that house who was heir to a $70 million fortune. The boy was. So what happened was his parents locked him up in the house and basically hid him from the world. And their goal was to get that money. And I think eventually the boy died. And they're like, yeah, he's disabled. What'd you expect? But Russell Hunter says he uncovered this mystery because he was living in this house. It was haunted. And he ended up finding a journal that the little boy kept in secret. And with the journal, obviously it left a lot of... He basically was saying, my parents are locking me up. I think they're going to kill me. And using a seance, Russell Hunter believes that he was able to find all of this information proving that this boy was murdered and his parents would get this money. Now, what's interesting is this was a big movie when it came out, The Changeling. So a lot of people over the years, and even back then, have thought, well, is this story true? The Denver Public Library says that story's not true. There was no one in the area who had that much money. So, and I think there were some other details as well, like no one ever died in that house, or no one even ever experienced hauntings in the house, whatever it was. The Denver Public Library, they're big record keepers for the area, say the story's not true, but Russell Hunter goes, no, the story is true, and I wrote a movie based on... loosely based. His wife and daughter didn't die. He kind of added that for dramatic flair. His wife and his daughter are sitting next to him at the movie theater. They're like, did you have to add that part? He's like, yep. Yes, I did. Is the story true? Is it not true? I mean, you have basically a guy saying he has this journal. Oh, and he also says that when they did the seance, and they were speaking to the spirit of this boy, he led them to where his bones could be found, and sure enough, his skeleton was found there. Is the story true? You have him saying it's true, you have the Denver Public Library saying it's not. But I didn't spend a lot of time researching that. I might go back and see that. I kind of just left that as it was, because I really wanted to focus on this story about the Egyptian film. But I thought there was an interesting path, right? We have a possibly real haunting, inspiring an American horror movie. So right there, that is charged with a different type of energy. It's the story of a little boy finally being told, although parts of it are exaggerated and horrified and all that stuff, he's finally getting his story out. So right there, it's kind of a bit different than a movie like Final Destination or The Ring or whatever, right? It's totally fictional. Let's go back to He Returned for Vengeance. It's the same plot. It's a remake of The Changeling. And it was directed by a guy pretty big who did a lot of horror movies over there. That I was looking at his IMDb page, and this wasn't like a one-off thing for him. This director, Yassan Ismail Yassan, he's shooting this movie, He Returned for Revenge. And while he's doing it, he goes, you know what? A key moment of this scene, a key moment of this movie is the seance scene where they're actually reaching out to the boy. It's the same plot, it's the changeling. That part where they're reaching out to the boy to find out the truth. I want that to be really, really authentic. So, for that scene, Yasin hired El Sayed El Husseini El Falaki, or Falaki, who to you and me would be like, okay, who's that guy? But in Egypt, at that time, it would be as if you took Shirley MacLaine. You're like, who's that? Jason, how old are you? It would be like if you took Shirley MacLaine, Sylvia Brown, and Uri Geller and rolled them into one. Now, I'm not calling him a fraud, right? Because a couple of those people have been exposed as being frauds, or at least likely frauds, but he was the prominent psychic, the prominent practitioner of magic's not the right word, but this idea that he had abilities beyond that of other men. And this dude was known all over Egypt for being that guy. There were allegations that he dabbled in black magic, but mostly he was known as the practitioner to the stars. Celebrities would come to him for spiritual guidance or to see into the future or to communicate with spirits, whatever it was. He dealt mostly with celebrities, and people knew him because of that. Some people say he even advised the elite of society, not just, because a celebrity wants to know if this movie role is right for her. So she comes talk. Businessmen, politicians. Some people believe that he actually advised people of that level of importance to society. He was called, quote, one of the most famous magicians and sorcerers at that time, unquote. So Yasin goes, hey, dude, I want you in this movie because everybody knows that you're the real deal. So you're going to come into this movie, we're going to have this seance scene, and just say some stuff. We're going to have you say some stuff. Doesn't really matter what it is, but make it sound magic-y. Make it sound authentic. So he did. El Sayed comes in. They start shooting the scene, and he begins his, obviously he has other lines like, hi, how are you doing? I'm the psychic. Let's talk about this dead boy problem you have. But once the ritual starts, the director says, just go with the flow. Say what you want to say. And what El Sayed says is the Al-Azima Al-Barahitiyah, which it's kind of hard to, I was able to say this guy was like these three people put together. It's kind of hard to make an equivalent of this. Because every source I read on this would give it a different level of priority. Some people said this is extremely dangerous to do. Basically, it's the names of all of these jinn, all of these spirits, all of these things outside of human understanding. It's a list of names. Others said it's a pretty well-known thing that people can recite, but you shouldn't do it, right? Some people go, oh no, we know exactly what it says, and we don't want to do it. And then other people go, well, people do it from time to time. But both people, all the articles said it was extremely dangerous for him to do this. Some people just were kind of more familiar with it, and so they would say exactly what was in it, while other people are like, I didn't even want to look at it, right? When this guy's writing this article to post online, he's like, listen, man, I'm just going to say it's real dangerous. The guy shouldn't have said that stuff. It's also known as the Barahitiyah incantation. And it's just this, really any definition of it, it's a dangerous thing. And I want to give a shout out too, because I should have said this earlier. I had never heard of this story. This dude on Reddit, going by the name of Ismaili D. Peñas, posted this thing. I never heard of this before. It's absolutely fascinating. But the way he described that incantation, he said, he called it a, quote, spell. A spell whispered about an occult lore, feared for its intensity and destructive power. And this guy just says it in the middle of this scene. Now, what's interesting is the director didn't clue in on it, and none of the actors or the crew did either. So it's not something that's super well known, apparently, outside of, mystical circles. If you heard it, if I heard it, we probably wouldn't know what it was. But an expert, if they were just walking by the movie set that day, they're sitting there, they're just eating a sandwich, and they're like, whoa, what? What are you filming? Are you filming a reality movie where a portal's actually going to open up? Because that's what's going to happen. But to everyone else, it sounded authentic. The movie production went on as normal. The movie is edited. The movie is released in 1988. It's being shown in movie theaters all over the country. But while people were watching the movie, they started to feel uncomfortable. They started to feel like they weren't alone. And of course, they're in a movie theater, they're not alone, but even in the seat they're sitting in, it feels occupied by something else, a force, an entity, a djinn, hoping to latch a ride on this guy who just bought a movie ticket. But now these forces, these mystical forces outside of the human reality, they're coming into the audience because this incantation was read on film. People started really freaking out about this, and what happened was the word got out. Don't go see that movie. Hey man, how was that movie? I heard it was pretty good. No, it wasn't. Do not go see it. Please, I have not felt right since I've seen it. I'm pretty sure something's trying to possess me. Do not go see it. And the outcry among people who would watch this movie at the theater, the Egyptian government, because they didn't know what was going on, but they figured there was something up with the film, banned the movie. They had it pulled from the theater. Now, I found one article that said, yes, the movie was pulled from the theater, but then it was released on video. And people started getting like all messed up in their home. They're all, I knew I hated it in the theater. I think I got possessed, but I really wanted to see how it ended. Why am I watching this? Now, that was interesting because only one article said it was released to home video as well, and it was cursing people. So the Egyptian government said, listen, man, we said you can't show the movie theater. We thought we implied you can't show it anywhere. We didn't think you'd mass produce it and put it on video. But what's interesting is in Egypt, I don't know, because, America, we have these big release windows, right? A movie comes out, you have to wait so long before it comes on video. I don't know if that applies to other countries. In Egypt, it may have come out on video while it was at the theater. Or it came out of the theater, the Egyptian government pulled it, and then a short while after it came out on video, and then the Egyptian government got involved again. What's interesting is, right now, we're actually at the point of the urban legend of this. Everything else I said earlier was verifiably true. The movie was shot, it was a remake of The Changeling. You had the director, Yassine, make it. You had the expert, El Said El Husseini El Falaki. In the movie, he said this incantation. All of that stuff is totally verifiable. What happens is, when you research this, the question is, did the Egyptian government pull it from the theaters? That's when we get to the urban legend part. Now, all the articles you will read about this, and I'd say 90% of the articles I read about this were in Arabic, and I was using English translation, which is phenomenally much better these days as it was just a year ago. All the articles I read in Arabic say this as its fact. They go, no, this is what happened. The Egyptian government got involved. They said, you got to pull the movie. It's making people get weird. And the articles never really went into detail as to what was exactly happening in the theater, like examples of how people were freaking out. Just the idea that this incantation was letting dark forces come into our world, and people were just sitting there watching it. I found one article say that when it came out on video, the Egyptian government had the video cassettes pulled as well. Now, what's super interesting, I mentioned this on a previous episode, this movie is available on YouTube. And I asked you guys, should I watch it? I've been having some jinn-related issues, or at least I think jinn-related issues. I don't know, right? I'm even a skeptic for stuff that happens in my own life. I don't know what that was. I'll put those episodes in the show notes. But, I mean, basically, should I watch any movie that is so cursed a government shut it down? That could be an urban legend. But what's really interesting is this movie's available on YouTube. So I asked you guys, should I watch it? And you guys basically said no. I ended up not watching it, but not for the reason you would suspect. Not because I'm a big old scaredy cat. It's really interesting. One, you can watch it on YouTube. You can have English subtitles, or probably really any language subtitles. They have all those different options. You can watch the full movie. They also have just the incantation scene. And I said, if you really wanted to get cursed, you could just jump to the incantation scene. Maybe in the context of it all, it's not as harmful. But am I going to watch it? Am I not going to watch it? That was the question I posed. I'm reading all these articles, and they're talking about this, and they're saying, this movie is cursed, and the government removed it. But then I'm looking and I'm seeing it on YouTube. I go to YouTube, I'm reading all these comments. People who have watched it, all these comments in Arabic. Because they've all heard this story, right? People are seeking out this movie for one of two reasons. One, they've heard that the movie is cursed, and they're kind of curious. Two, because they've heard this is a terrifying horror movie. Even just outside of the curse. I'm reading the YouTube comments and people are like, yeah, it's a pretty good movie, but I haven't had anything weird happen to me. Next comment, good movie, it's really scary. Nothing weird, I watched an incantation scene, there's nothing weird about it. Comment after comment after comment saying that. And you can actually look at YouTube, it'll show like the most watched parts of the video. Even in the full-length movie, people are watching that incantation scene more than anything else. They're either skipping to it or they're watching it multiple times. All the YouTube comments, all of them say there's nothing going on here with the movie or the incantation scene. People go, the movie's terrifying, but there's nothing going on with the incantation scene. It's possible that they're all possessed by jinn and they're trying to get other people to watch it, but I was reading all these articles, and right towards the very end of my research, I come across this article, and it has a sentence in it that was repeated in nothing else. And I said, that's what's going on. That's why everyone is leaving those comments on YouTube. This article said, the movie was banned from the theater, and it was banned from video cassette until the director edited the movie. And once the movie was changed, it was allowed to be re-released. So he changed something about that incantation. He changed something that made it not cursed. And that is the version on YouTube. And when I read that, I go, that is really creepy. That is really creepy. I cannot think of a story that I've ever come across that there is cursed media and they find out that it's cursed, so they go in and tweak it so it's no longer cursed. And now anyone who watches it can go, it's just an urban legend. I mean, it's a good movie, but there's nothing cursed about it because they modified the film. That actually would make sense. If the story is true, if the movie was cursing people, the Egyptian government, if they're pulling it from theaters, they're not going to allow it to get distributed to homes. But there are copies of this going around. There's a copy of on YouTube that you can watch and not get cursed. Why? Either the story's fake or he changed it. That's really awesome. I mean, it's so funny because the amount of research I have to do for this show for just a single story, it can be a lot. But I was like, I'm so glad I kept reading about this because that's the key. The YouTube version is not cursed. The video cassette that you can buy in Egypt is not cursed. But if you happen to have one of those original video cassettes when it was first released, or that film reel when it first hit the theaters, it might be cursed. It might actually be real life cursed media, a spell trapped on film that can affect the viewer in a negative way. True cursed media. But if you just rent it because you hear the story, or watch it on YouTube because you hear the story, you watch it, you go, that's not cursed because they changed it. That's really, really fascinating. And that makes sense. That's 100%. Because you could go, well, the government could just say you can't ever release the movie. This guy wasn't a fly-by-night director. He was a big director at the time. So, you invest all this money in this movie. He didn't mean to do any of this stuff. Instead of him just going broke, they go, why don't you just edit a little bit of that out? The spell that's cursing people. Okay, I'll do that. The one website that mentioned that the movie was re-edited is a website called Thamanyar.com. They had that extra piece of information. Fascinating stuff. This doesn't really have anything to do with anything. I just thought this was super funny. When I was researching this, I was reading all these comments, and like I said, some people watch the movie because they heard it was cursed. Some people watch the movie because they've heard it was just a terrifying horror movie. And people say the same thing about The Changeling. A lot of people saw this movie when they were younger, right? In 88, they're a kid and they watch this movie and it terrifies them, and then they're adults and maybe they're going back on YouTube to relive the fear. Like, I really want to watch Poltergeist again. It's been a long time since I've seen the original Poltergeist. But anyways, this guy on Facebook, because I was reading all these Facebook comments about the movie and stuff like that, this guy on Facebook posted, so apparently they say like the scariest scene is there's a ball bouncing around in the house. Now, it doesn't sound super scary. But right, the right mood, the right music, it'd probably be kind of scary, I guess, right? I mean, Poltergeist had a clown coming up from underneath the bed. You just have a ball bouncing around. But anyways, this guy said, I saw the movie when I was in high school, so many years ago. I saw this movie, and it terrified me so much that when I had kids of my own, they could never have balls overnight. And people are like, what are you talking about? Because he goes, balls are scary, man. They could play with a ball during the day at their house, but the second the sun went down, he's like, pack the balls away, kids. Put them in the ball box. Lock it up. Give it to the neighbor. They've been doing this their whole life. Oh, come on, Dad. Can we just have this one ball? It's a globe. I have a geography test tomorrow. Get rid of it. Throw it out the window. No balls overnight. I mean, that's a truly scary movie. I know people don't like clowns because they saw it, or people don't like Fog because they saw The Mist, which I guess they're doing a remake. Mike Flanagan. I really like Mike Flanagan. He directed Dr. Sleep, which I thought was a really good movie. I like Mike Flanagan. He's doing a remake of The Mist, which I love The Mist. That's that's easily my favorite Stephen King story. And probably my favorite Stephen King movie. He did kill John Lennon, and I can't forgive him for that, but The Mist is a fantastic story. It'll be hard to top Frank Darabont's version. But anyways, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, balls, right? This guy won't let balls be around. I still to this day don't like Fog because it reminds me of The Mist. I read the story. I listened to the audiobook when I was a kid. It absolutely terrified me. But yeah, so fascinating story. This actually might be a piece of cursed media, and I say you can watch it on YouTube, but that part isn't cursed anymore. That I know of. I didn't watch it. User beware. You may not want to watch it either. As almost a postscript to this entire story, and we'll wrap it up like this. In the year 2003, El Said, the famous psychic to the stars, dies. And a lot of the articles on his death would have you believe it was a mysterious act, that he may have been killed because of either this movie or an entire lifetime of using these abilities to reach out beyond the world of man. In 2003, he was found dead in his locked office. A look of horror on his face. Oh! As if he had been attacked by some unseen threat that in his very last moments of life scared him to death. Or, I read a bunch of articles on that. It kind of sounds like a heart attack, unfortunately. I read a lot of articles on this, and they all talked about how his face looked, and then I read one article, and they said he was blue as well. His skin was blue. It's probably a heart attack, right? That is an unseen force. It is quite terrifying. It can definitely happen in a locked room. Was it a paranormal heart attack or just a normal heart attack? Who knows? And that's what I kind of like about this story. Well, not that the guy died. That's sad, but the idea that we have real-life facts we can verify, and then it veers into the world of urban legend. Is the movie actually cursed? Were people feeling like they were being attacked while watching the movie, either in the cinemas or at home? That's the part that we don't know. There's really no first-hand reports of any of that. I wasn't able to come across any story where someone said, I was at one of those theaters when it first came out, and this is what it felt like. So I really like this. I love cursed films already. The idea of any cursed media, cursed books, cursed films, cursed music recordings, all of this stuff. It's a fantastic genre of these types of stories. Yet, have we ever really found one? Have we found an authentic cursed media, in this case a cursed film? This may be it. This may actually be one, but the copies we can view today have been edited. So you can't get cursed from the YouTube video. But also that's a very convenient out for the urban legend side, right? You can't ever prove it. What I thought was interesting, out of all of the sources I read on this story, only one of them mentioned the movie being edited. So I'm glad I kept doing research on this, because that's a key component to it. Most of them just say the government pulled the movie. But that would explain why everyone watching the YouTube videos who know of the curse, which usually can predisposition you to think anything going wrong in your life was a result of that movie. They go, it was a good movie, but I don't feel cursed. Fascinating story. I really love this one. I'm glad I came across it. And a shout out to that Reddit user. Let me say his name one more time. I'll try better to pronounce it. Ismaili D. Penas for posting this, because I'd never heard of this story until he did a write-up on Reddit. So fantastic stuff. Fantastic stuff. So stay safe out there, Fluffle. This weekend, if you're looking for a movie to watch, check out Iron Lung, maybe. Or the new Dracula movie. There's a new Dracula movie? There is a new Dracula movie. It looks good. Maybe check out Send Help by Sam Raimi. But if you're really desperate for a spooky movie to watch, maybe sit down, grab a fresh drink and a nice snack, fire up YouTube and watch He Returned for Vengeance. Because while everyone's saying online that this movie has no curse, is it possible that all of those people have been cursed? And it's not human hands typing out comments saying how good the movie is, but don't worry, there's no evil behind it. What if it's not people leaving those comments, but jinn looking for new victims? DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a great weekend, guys.